Zambia, on the cusp of a promising future. Zambia is laying the groundwork to meet the Vision 2030 goal of becoming a prosperous middle-income country. We've achieved significant progress since the turn of the century. Our country has grown. More mothers are surviving childbirth, and children are healthier and more educated. Our recent social and economic development gains show the country's potential to emerge as a key player in Africa, and the world is taking notice. Yet despite Zambia's noteworthy progress, poverty in the country remains high. In fact, as our economy grew, so did the number of people in poverty. During the period of economic growth, the number of Zambians living in poverty increased by 1 million. As of 2015, more than half of Zambians are in poverty. In other words, economic success alone did not automatically lead to overall national development and improved quality of life. Why is there still widespread poverty if our economy is growing? One possible explanation is that our population is growing faster than our economy. Zambia has one of the fastest growing populations in the world. Today, we have about 17 million people, and each year we add close to 600,000 people to the population. At this rate, our country will increase to 24 million people by 2030 and 41 million people by 2050. Can rapid population growth benefit the economy? A country's population can be an asset if there are enough resources that enable its citizens to thrive and become productive members of society. For instance, to meet the basic needs of the population by 2030, government will need to train and absorb 25,000 doctors and nurses, provide enough hospitals to accommodate 50,000 beds, train and absorb 115,000 teachers, educate more than 4.5 million primary and secondary school students, costing the government approximately 17 billion kwacha in education expenses, 20 billion kwacha in health expenses, a significant increase compared to what we've set aside for education and health in the 2019 budget. These costs would strain the national budget and pull resources away from long-term investments in other vital areas such as infrastructure, information and communications technology, and the economy. To better understand how population growth can affect the economy, let's look at Zambia's population age structure, also known as the number of people who are young, middle-aged, or old. Each bar of this diagram shows how many people are a certain age. It looks like a pyramid because when couples have many children, more people are in the younger age groups at the base of the pyramid. Currently, women in Zambia have an average of 5 children. Half of our population is less than age 15. Together with those ages 65 and older, these groups make up Zambia's dependent population, or the segment of the population that is dependent on the working population. The working age population, in turn, are those between the ages 15 and 64. We have a very youthful population. If we can properly manage our population and transform our age structure into one that favors economic growth, we can use our country's youthful population to our advantage. Let's look at Thailand as an example. In 1970, about half of Thailand's population were dependents, and women had an average of 6 children. The government recognized that rapid population growth hindered economic growth and established policies to achieve a growth rate that sustained and supported national development. Hence, the government ensured that 5-year national economic and social development plans from the 1970s onward focused on slowing down population growth. During the 1980s and 1990s, these plans also put in place efforts to improve the health and education of the population and further develop human resources. And in the 2000s, the plans expanded their focus to enhance the quality of life of citizens through economic reforms and good governance. With women and couples choosing to have smaller families, Thailand's population age structure is ideal for continued economic growth, now boasting a much larger share of work-age adults compared to dependents. Thailand produced a larger and more competitive labor force that contributed to sustained economic gains. By reducing the dependent population relative to the working population, Thailand was able to devote more resources towards strengthening the country's educational and health systems, economic policies, and government institutions. As a result, Thailand achieved a demographic dividend and became an upper middle income nation in less than a generation. How does Zambia compare to Thailand today? With a dependent population at 48% and women having an average of 5 children, Zambia's population looks like Thailand's in 1970. In other words, we are about 50 years behind Thailand. A side-by-side comparison of Zambia and Thailand shows the significant differences between the two countries. If we continue business as usual, the demand for social services, housing, electricity, water, and sanitation will rise. The government will also need to create more jobs, especially for youth who are entering the labor force, which will be a challenge since youth who enter the workforce are often unable to secure stable employment opportunities or adequately meet daily expenses. In fact, 4 in 5 young adults ages 20 to 24 years old are unemployed. Youthful populations put more pressure on government institutions to deliver social services and provide jobs. But when the government is already financially stressed and unable to meet people's needs, especially youth, some youth may become disillusioned, feel marginalized, and resort to violence or extremism. At the community and household level, the large number of dependents restricts parents' ability to save and make it harder for families to escape poverty. Poverty levels in rural areas are particularly alarming. Of the 9 million people living in poverty today, more than 7 million or 77% live in rural areas. A significant proportion of children are malnourished. Families are struggling to make ends meet, and the quality of life is slow to improve. How can we ensure that everyone can benefit from Zambia's current and future progress? What can we do to break the cycle of poverty, improve quality of life, and sustain economic growth in Zambia? Experience has taught us that economic success alone is not enough to achieve middle-age income status. We need to focus our efforts towards shifting our age structure by investing in children's health, increasing school completion rates, especially for girls. 1 in 16 children in Zambia do not make it to his or her 5th birthday. Improving child health will not only help children thrive, but will also influence couples' preferences for family size. Research shows that couples choose to have smaller families when they know that each child has a better chance of surviving. Child health can also be improved with increased access to voluntary family planning for women and couples. Voluntary family planning enables women and couples to choose the timing and spacing of their pregnancy and meet their desired family size. And when women can decide for themselves when to have children, they can stay in school, find jobs, and contribute to the economy. In fact, experts estimate that increases in female labor participation can increase incomes by up to 21%. Increasing school completion rates, especially for girls, is also a critical component in shifting our age structure. Multiple studies confirm that investing in girls' education can generate positive returns on both the household and the national level. Women with higher education delay marriage and childbearing, hold high-skilled jobs, contribute to the economy, and better provide for themselves and their family. A World Bank analysis revealed that every extra year of secondary school for women can increase wages by 15% to 20%. Moreover, voluntary family planning and education have a mutually reinforcing relationship. Women with more education prefer smaller families than women with less or no education. Likewise, modern contraceptive use is higher among women with secondary or higher education compared to women of primary or no education. Unfortunately, national figures show that although 9 in 10 girls in primary schools graduate, less than 1 in 3 girls in secondary school complete their studies. Child marriage and adolescent pregnancy also pose a serious challenge to girls' education, contributing significantly to school dropout rates. In 2014, more than 150,000 girls ages 15 to 19 were married, and in 2018, about 1 in 3 girls ages 15 to 19 have already given birth or are pregnant with their first child. Of the 14,000 girls who dropped out of primary and secondary school in 2017 due to pregnancy, only 7,500 returned after giving birth. Adolescent pregnancy greatly reduces young women's educational and employment opportunities, which in turn can lead to increased poverty. If we invest in the health and the education of the population, especially in women and girls, we may see a different Zambia in the years to come. If by 2030 women and couples have an average of 3 children, we can start to see a slight decline in the younger dependent population. And if fertility continues to decline, with women and couples choosing to have an average of 2 children by 2050, the transformation is much more apparent. By 2050, there will be more working-age adults in the labor force contributing to the economy. Dependents will be fewer, easing the pressure for social services and freeing up resources that the government can reinvest in key sectors. And as women and couples have smaller families, they are able to provide for their children, save money, and escape poverty. In fact, studies show that shifting the age structure of the population can lead to a 47% increase in per capita income. By 2050, Zambia can save up to 9 billion kwacha in healthcare costs and 19 billion kwacha in education costs, a total savings of 28 billion kwacha. We can invest these savings in areas that help our continued progress towards becoming a middle-income country, such as infrastructure, health, and education, combined with good governance practices. We can reduce poverty and inequality, all of which comprise the strategic areas of Zambia's 7th National Development Plan. And now, with the launch of the 2019 National Population Policy, policymakers and key stakeholders have the policy frameworks in place to ensure that Zambia remains on the path towards achieving its development goals. If we succeed in our efforts, GDP per capita will double by 2050 and triple by 2063, effectively launching Zambia into upper middle income status. Shifting the population age structure will not only help us meet our development goals, but will also help us achieve our international commitments. The great challenges leaders face today are how to cope with growing populations, reduce poverty, compete in the global economy, and improve people's lives without compromising the environment for the well-being of future generations. For Zambia to seize the opportunity for sustainable economic and social development and achieve middle-income status, we must expand access to voluntary planning outreach and services, especially in rural areas. Increase investments in child health and secondary education, especially for girls. Integrate population issues into the overall development planning process. Use population and demographic data to inform development policies, programs, and resource allocation. Zambia is on the cusp of a promising future. With the policy frameworks in place, the time to act is now. By investing in the health and well-being of our children, increasing access to voluntary family planning, promoting increased education for girls, and helping families escape poverty, we can keep the nation on the path of achieving our national development goals.